Do I look cute? Do I look goofy? I don't really know, but we're just gonna go with it because I'm living my Lizzie McGuire fantasy. Hey everybody, welcome back to my channel. If you are new here, hello. If you are returning, welcome back. Thank you so much for sticking around. I really appreciate you. Today, we're gonna be talking about a part of fat acceptance. Hold on, this is warm. I cannot. No, sir. Also, it's really windy outside, so sorry if you can hear that in advance. But today, we're going to be talking about a part of fat acceptance that I feel like doesn't really get talked about a lot. Because I feel like more people focus on the physical harm aspects of fat acceptance and all that kind of stuff. But today, we're going to be talking about the mental health aspect of fat acceptance, because that is a big, big part of the negative effects of fat acceptance, in my personal opinion. In the video that I am basically gave me the following that I have, which was about my experience as a person who was like pretty ingrained in the fat acceptance rhetoric for a really long time as a young person. I talked about how they kind of create this like fat acceptance or fat people like versus the world mindset. And ever since then, I've had quite a few people comment on that video asking me to kind of elaborate on what I meant by that. And here we are, almost 2 years out. I'm finally making the video. I've been thinking about making this video for a while, and I just never did. I don't know why, I just never did. And then I got a comment about it. I think it was on my fat acceptance versus body positivity video. They were basically talking about like this. And so I was like, okay, time to make this video because clearly I'm not alone in my thinking. And then Kiana, I don't know how to pronounce her last name, but I love her. I don't know how to pronounce her last name. And she made a video about the Fat Doctor UK account on TikTok. And she actually featured my fat acceptance video in it again. But she alluded to this whole idea as well. And so I was like, okay, too many things are happening in the universe that are telling me to make this video. So we're going to make this video. But before we get into the meat and potatoes of the video, I would really appreciate it if you would make sure you are still subscribed to me if you thought you were. But if you're not subscribed to me, please consider subscribing to me. We talk about a lot of things on this channel, and I would just really like it if you joined. I really would. I don't think you'll regret it, but that's just my opinion. I might be a little bit biased, who knows. Anyways, let's get into this bear of a topic. So for context, when I was in the fat acceptance movement, I wasn't like an active person in it. I was just like following the rhetoric of some of the popular people in it. I was like 16 to 20 years old. So like very young, very impressionable by people on the internet, like just not a great time to be put in that position. But yeah, so I was about 16 to 20. That was like the time frame. And for more context, I used to be 315 pounds. I had weight loss surgery in 2018. I have Molly, psst. I have lost 100 pounds, technically 85, but I'm working to lose the 15 pounds again to get back to 100 pounds down, because quite frankly, I just felt the best at that weight, so that's why I want to do it. But yeah, so that's my whole thing. So when I was in this like sphere of the internet, I distinctly remember them like basically talking about how society hates you as a fat person, and that was like their entire rhetoric, right? And how unfairly fat people are treated in society, which I do agree that fat people are treated unfairly in society. Maybe not as severely as fat activism leads you to believe, but I have experienced life both in a super morbidly obese body and in a more socially accepted body. I'm like a size 14 now, so I'm like very average. But yeah, and so I can definitely say from personal experience that fat people are treated differently in society for the most part. And it is a conversation that needs to be had. I will not deny that either. And I do think it's a conversation that needs to be had more so to create solidarity and not to create the us versus them mentality that I personally believe fat acceptance activists are perpetuating on the internet. But I do think that fat activism and fat acceptance crosses a line when they make just these sweeping overgeneralizations about people and society in general. And I think it's extremely harmful to those people who are just not active in fat activism, but just consume the content. And to me, having this us versus them mentality with anything just isn't healthy, let alone when it comes to vulnerable communities and vulnerable people, which I think a lot of the consumers of fat activism and fat acceptance are young girls and young fat girls. I think that's an extremely vulnerable community that they're targeting and spreading really harmful messaging to. So when I was prepping for this video, I realized something. I realized that this whole message they're spreading is so stupid. It's so stupid because one of the things that fat activists advocate for is that fat people are more than just their bodies, right? Which is great. That's a great thing to advocate for. I think anybody's more than just their bodies, not just fat people, but that's their thing, and that's great. But my thing is when you are spreading this narrative that society hates you because you are fat, or you are looked down on in society because you are fat, you are in turn making it about people's bodies. So doesn't that seem a little counterintuitive to you? That was just a thought I had. And I have seen more fat activists leaning more in the direction of body neutrality, which is great. I am trying to lean more into body neutrality, and something I'm working on in therapy. It helps a lot with my body dysmorphia. But part of me wonders if these fat activists realize that they are going to have to let go of this narrative that they've been pushing for so long to achieve true body neutrality. Just a thought. Just some food for thought. I'll never forget seeing Virgie Tovar's cake-related fat-phobic incident video back in 2017. So I would have been, how long ago was that? 5 years ago? So I would have been like 20. And I remember seeing that, and it immediately made me, I know it's meant to be funny, and I did see it as funny, but it also kind of made me sensitive or more afraid that I, as a fat person, was going to be judged for doing anything. And that's not the point of that video. Because the point of that video is calling out what Virgie declares to be fat-phobic behavior by people asking for smaller pieces of cake whenever there's cake in like a public setting. She declares that being fat-phobic and that it's unnecessary. That's the point of the video. But I, as a young human, did not take it that way. But I still think because I still think it has the capability of kind of like instilling fear into the fat young people that watch it, that people are just going to judge them for whatever they choose to do, and because they're fat. Let alone whether it be, God forbid, having a normal sized piece of cake, or God forbid, asking for a smaller piece of cake. And I know that's a very big take on a very stupid video, but it's just something I thought about. Now, one of the big things that the fat acceptance people preach on and convince you that you are just looked down upon is in the medical field, in the doctor's office. And I don't deny that there is a misunderstanding or some sort of miscommunication in the medical field of fat people just being told to lose weight and that will cure all of their ailments, even when it's not something that has to do with weight at all. I totally empathize with that. I've gone through the same thing. But that being said, there are literally thousands of studies saying that obesity and weight are directly linked to health. And I can attest just from personal experience, I flipped my pre-diabetes, I fixed my malfunctioning liver, I improved my blood work, and I overall just felt a whole hell of a lot better after losing 100 pounds. And yeah. So that's just my anecdotal evidence, I guess. But even though there is this overwhelming amount of evidence saying that weight and obesity correlate with health, fat acceptance activists definitely still try to convince us that pretty much everything that happens in our medical system or our healthcare system, at least in America, is rooted in fat phobia or is just fat phobic. One of my favorite things they would tell me was that my doctor weighing me at my appointments was a fat phobic thing to do. When I was like in the throes of fat phobia, I straight up asked my nurse why they weigh me every single time I come into the office. And she told me that it was just a vital measurement that helps assess if I am at risk for certain diseases or conditions, or if I need certain medications, which is true, because it is. I've also seen people in fat acceptance claim that doctors telling them they need to lose weight is fat phobic, which in a setting, or in the context of being there for maybe like a broken leg, or like eye pain, or like a headache or something, I could see that being taken that way. But in the context I've seen it, at least on like TikTok and stuff, it's been for things that your weight can affect. So I don't think it's that unfair. Having been on that side as well, it's not that unfair, and it's not fat phobic. But overall, seeing this as a young 16 to 20-year-old kid, seeing these people that I looked up to spewing this bullshit, really did a number on my noodle and made me kind of distrusting of doctors, to be honest, especially when I was going through all of my chronic illness stuff. I was pretty distrusting of doctors. Wasn't great. They did not, fat acceptance people did not help any of that. Now, when it comes to dating versus fat people, this is the one that really, really affected me, particularly as I reached like 18, 19, 20. And it was this theme that if somebody wasn't into you or attracted to you or whatever, it was because you were fat. Which I think whenever anybody in the fat activism space says this, I think again it's really counterintuitive, because nobody stops to think that like, well, because they're making it about your body, right? They're making it about your body. That's the only reason this person can't be into you. What if they're just not into you? Just in general. Like, my personality is not for everybody. My personality isn't for every man out there, because in my case, I'm attracted to men, unfortunately. What if they're just not attracted to you? And it has nothing to do with your outward appearance. Because honestly, if you match with them on a dating app or whatever, they're probably attracted to you even on the most like superficial level. So like, I don't understand that argument, but whatever. So I just went through life thinking, and this is not a new rhetoric at all. Like, this has been the rhetoric from the beginning of time. Like, see common movie trope of like girl starts awkward, fat, and ugly, and not ugly, but awkward and fat, and then like goes through puberty, comes out with boobs and curves, and like all the guys are into her now, right? So it's not a new thing, but I don't think the fat acceptance movement really helps it at all by like basically saying if a guy like ghosts them or like ends things with them or whatever, it's because they're fat. I don't want to be rude, but maybe your personality had something to do with it too. And so for the longest time, I thought, I just immediately went through life just thinking that any guy that I was attracted to just immediately was not going to be attracted to me because I was fat. And can you imagine the number that did on me? And I'm still working through that. I'm still working through it to this day in therapy, overcoming that hump. Like, I think it's just such a dangerous thing to spread on the internet to just anybody, because nobody needs to be thinking like that. Literally nobody needs to be thinking like that. And granted, I did not start dating until after I had lost about 60 pounds, but that was because I had never had the confidence to start dating until then. So that was a personal problem. But after having been on the scene, in the dating scene for so long now, I can confidently say that I would have found a person who loved me and was attracted to me and wanted to jump my bones at any moment, at any size. At any size that I've ever been. I can confidently say I would be able to find someone who would love me and want to jump my bones. hands down. I still have not found that person yet where I'm at now. But again, that's a personal problem. Those were just like two specific like kind of themes that I remember seeing a lot in the fat acceptance movement while I was in it. But I think just like everyone talks about the fat acceptance movement and how it affects people physically because it kind of like perpetuates unhealthy behaviors and whatever. And I haven't seen a lot of people talk about how it affects people mentally, because they do create this us versus them theme, and it's really toxic to be in that mindset in general, but let alone when you maybe already have some body image issues or whatever. It's not only going to make you like, because you might be like depressed or whatever. At least I was depressed. I still am depressed, but I was depressed about my size then, because fat people are treated unfairly in society, and that's not a fun thing to navigate through. But when you start creating this angry mindset of like us versus them, it's just going to make like a snowball, right? And that's not good either. Constantly having people you look up to on the internet tell you from the ages of like 16 to 20 that like society hates you just because of the way you are is not good. Like, it's just straight up not a great thing. And so I think we need to talk about it a little bit more. After all of that, I think it can be boiled down to say that while we think that the fat acceptance movement is helping us both mentally and physically, it's hindering us in both of those categories, or in both of those ways. Overall, my idols on the internet prevented me from putting myself out there, from just walking around confidently, because for some reason they feel the need to be so negative and so just like about themselves. They're so like high and mighty, but when it comes to talking about anything else, it's like doom and gloom and like Eeyore all the time. And that's not a healthy mindset to be in at all. And I was constantly told that like all the things I maybe wanted to do were rooted in diet culture and fat phobia. And yes, part of me was this lacking critical thinking skills, but I was also 16 to 20 years old. Like, I should have been lacking critical thinking skills. So, yeah. I just think this is a bigger conversation that needs to be added to the fat acceptance, fat activism conversation. Wow. And so I just wanted to make this video kind of talking about this. I don't know if it made sense. I really hope it did. And if it did, and if you have anything to add to this conversation, please let me know down below. I think this could be a very interesting topic to talk about. But yeah, other than that, thank you so much for sticking around. Thank you for watching this video. I love you all so much. Be kind to yourself, be kind to others, drink your water, take your meds, and I will see you in the next one. Okay, bye.